Presented by Caltech.
I would like to especially acknowledge President Tom Rosenbaum and Caltech's Provost Ed Stolper here with us today. Also in the audience are the architects from AC Martin, whose vision and creativity you have already experienced, or you will experience soon as you take the tour throughout the newly renovated Gates Thomas Laboratory later this afternoon. And of course, Tony Parker, who managed the project for Caltech. Tony, where are you? I would like to also thank Jim Cowell, whose department is one of the few that I know that actually can finish such a thing in 1 year. Of course, I would like to especially acknowledge the presence of a group of very special people today who have generously given their time and resources to this project. These are our donors who have made the Gates Thomas Laboratory possible. Diane Wallach. Thank you, Diane. Jim and Sandy Hall. Thank you, Jim and Sandy. Li San Wang and his wife Anne. And those who could not join us in person today, Jack and Christine Hartley, as well as Dan and Marnie Gruen. In order to continue to bring the best faculty, students, and staff at Caltech, we need to offer them state-of-the-art laboratories, computational facilities, as well as a very inspiring environment. Indeed, the central part of the renovation of this building was the laboratory facilities, which were designed not only to meet the needs of our current faculty and our current student body, but also those of our future faculty and the research groups. Providing the best support for our young faculty has always been the philosophy of Caltech, a philosophy that has been strongly preached by our provost, Ted Stolper, and indeed this is the place to thank him for his unwavering support and advice, and also his inventiveness throughout this process. Thank you. I also want to take a moment to bring your attention to the beautiful public spaces that are created as part of this renovation. One example is, of course, the amphitheater just behind me, connecting the Gates Laboratory to the Sherman Fairchild Library. Another is the Hausner Lounge, which is at the heart of the second floor. And I would like to invite you all to see these places as you take the tour. These public spaces, as well as the classrooms and the conference spaces, become hubs of activity not only for one department, but across our division and across the Institute. They are a very important part of our existence. The transformation of the former Franklin Thomas Laboratory of Engineering introduces, as I said, much needed modernization while honoring the lab's storied past and highlights the academic luminaries and their students who have helped advance mechanical engineering, civil engineering, applied mechanics, and engineering science here at Caltech. However, perhaps not all of you know that Thomas has also housed for several decades much more than these 3 programs. It also housed Caltech's program in nuclear engineering, a program that does not exist anymore, but has produced in a relatively short time period of its existence, extraordinary graduates such as Bob Kahn, who is now the president of the Kavli Foundation, Jim Duderstadt, ex-president of the University of Michigan, George Apostolakis, past member of the U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and Harold McFarlane, associate director of the Argonne, Idaho National Lab, and many others. This, of course, our graduates are a product. They are the metric of our success. These are only a few people of a program that only existed here at Caltech for a very short period of time. It is also worth noting that the first bioengineering and biophysics efforts here at Caltech were also started at this building. This was before the word bioengineering meant anything. Professor Ted Wu is sitting here at the audience, and I remember him coming a few years ago when I just became division chair in my office with a dedication and a book that described his work in how fish swim and how birds fly. And that was classical bioengineering. Now, for engineering and applied science at Caltech to continue to be successful, it is imperative that we create more facilities like the Gates Thomas Laboratories. The facility that you see behind you augments the vision of Franklin Thomas, who, as many of you know, became the first chair of the Division of Engineering and Applied Science 91 years ago in 1924. Indeed, I have a few more buildings that need similar treatment. And if anyone is interested, I would be very happy to speak to them afterwards. Now, today, we have several speakers and distinguished guests. We will now share the perspectives on the significance of this renovation. Our first speaker is Professor Kaushik Bhattacharya, who is the current executive officer of the Department of Mechanical and Civil Engineering. He is the person who has, from the beginning, really spearheaded and nurtured this project on behalf of the Division of Engineering and Applied Science, and without his perseverance, without his vision, we would not be standing here today. Kaushik.
Thank you so much, Aris. I'm delighted to be able to say a few words on behalf of the faculty, the students, and the staff of the Department of Mechanical and Civil Engineering. We're just very excited, grateful, and really proud to be able to call the Gates Thomas Lab of Engineering our new home. Mechanical and civil engineering is about creating the physical environment that we live in, the cities we live in, the machines we use, the way we travel, the energy that powers these, and the water that we need. An integral part of Caltech over a century, these disciplines have attracted exceptional individuals and addressed the critical technological challenges of the day. Today, we focus on three major challenges: energy, natural resources and hazards, and autonomous systems. The Gates Thomas Laboratory will provide us with a state-of-the-art facility to pursue our work with renewed vigor. Every new beginning brings promise and anticipation, and this is no different, so I want to share a few. I'm curious to see what Austin Minich will discover in the Hartley nanoscale heat transfer lab, and how materials he develops there will lead to new solar cells, efficient means of converting waste heat into usable electricity, and new methods of cooling computer chips. I'm confident that the computational methods that Guillaume Blancard is now developing will eventually tame fire and ultimately lead to new combined cycles that allow us to capture carbon dioxide at the combustion source and also predict the spread of wildfires. Jose Andrade will bring new understanding to granular materials in soils, and this will enable us to predict landslides and to traverse new planets and moons. Dominique Asimaki will teach us to build foundations that resist liquefaction during earthquakes, and also foundations that can support offshore wind farms. The autonomous systems that Joel Burdick has developed are already enabling paraplegics to walk and new robotic means of exploring space. So I'm curious and frankly a little frightened of what he will dream up next. The Gates Thomas Lab will also be the primary home of about 80 graduate students and 100 undergraduates, together about a tenth of the student body at Caltech. So I'm sure that the lectures at the Jim and Sandy Hall auditorium that you see just behind me, and the Lisan and Ann Huang conference room that you see perched high up on there, will inspire them to go out and change the world. As we occupy our new home, we are inspired by the two names that grace the building. Chelsea Gates, a former life trustee of Caltech, took the family Gates Rubber Company that pioneered transmission belts and grew it into the diverse Gates Corporation with many business interests ranging from real assets to Learjet. As a trustee of Caltech, Gates was an early promoter of entrepreneurship on campus. Franklin Thomas, an Iowa railroad engineer, was the inaugural chair of the division of the division which was then known as the Division of Civil and Mechanical Engineering, Aeronautics, and Meteorology. He was a dean of students and a civic leader who played a pivotal role in bringing water to Southern California. I'm delighted that the Thomas family is able to join us today. We are also inspired by those who came before us. Aris has already mentioned a number of them. The image that you see just behind me on the auditorium glass, the cavitating vortices, reminds us of the contributions of the hydrodynamics lab. The engravings on the lobby of the floor of the lobby as you walk in will remind us of the thousands of lives saved by the earthquake engineering. And the image on the wall of the lobby reminds us how simple models and mathematical analysis can lead to profound breakthroughs in engineering. All of us in mechanical and civil engineering are extremely grateful to those who made this facility possible. I'll begin with the leadership of the Institute, our division chair, Aris Razakis, and his predecessor, Dave Rutledge, our president, Tom Rosenbaum, and his predecessor, Jean-Luc Chameau, and in particular, our provost, Ed Stolper. He has never been easy, but always very supportive. And Ed, there is a central stairwell. I think you secretly rooted for it all along, but I'll let that go. We are also very grateful to the architects from A.C. Martin, and in particular to Andrea Caballo, Gail Bovary, and Susan O'Connell. We are grateful to Swinnerton Builders, and in particular Will Carpentier, who was the little conductor orchestrating the whole event, David Cramp and Chris Talon. And we are very grateful to the Caltech facilities team. You have simply been excellent. So many of you have worked so hard, and I'll be hard-pressed to name all of you. So I'll actually just simply acknowledge Tony Parker on behalf of all of you. Ultimately, none of this would have been possible without this generous support of Diane Wallach and the Gates Family Foundation, Jim and Sandy Hall, Lisan and Ann Huang, and Fred L. Hartley Family Foundation. I'm delighted that Lisan and Ann and their daughter Helena are able to join us today. After receiving his PhD in 1965, Lisan joined the newly formed Tetra Tech and soon emerged its leader. He eventually went on to become its president and chief operating officer. By the time he retired, Tetra Tech had become the largest environmental consulting and engineering firm in the United States. Today, he's very passionate about water resources around the world. Lisan, you're an example to our students, especially those who come from distant lands to study in this great institution. Lisan and Anne, please stand up and be acknowledged. We are also very grateful to the Fred L. Hartley Family Foundation. The Hartley Foundation has been a steady supporter of Caltech and our department. Their current support enables us to create the Hartley Nanoscale Heat Transfer Lab. Unfortunately, Jack and Marnie are not able to join us today, but we look forward to welcoming them in September. I now want to turn to Jim and Sandy Hall. They started this project with seed funding and then took us over the line at the end. Jim Hall, as all of you know, is a legendary race car driver and designer. His Chaparral cars and its many technological innovations fundamentally changed how aerodynamics is exploited, not only in race cars, but eventually in every car that we drive today. His is the only team to have won auto racing's Triple Crown, the Indianapolis, the Pocono, and the Ontario 500-mile races. Jim was recognized as a distinguished alumnus of Caltech in 2001 and is a member of various auto racing halls of fame. Jim and Sandy, thank you so much for your support and for joining us today. Jim, would you please come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Kaushik. What a beautiful day to do it in, and what a nice spot. This started for Sandy and I sometime before 2008. As I remember, maybe in Chris Brennan's office, when he told me that the Thomas Lab was going to be remodeled. And we had been down and looked at the undergraduate prototyping laboratory, and that was one of the first things that I thought I wanted to be involved in. So I spoke to Sandy when I got back to the home, and we thought about it a good deal, and we decided that was something that we could do and that we wanted to do. So in order to get this project going, I think we probably were the first ones to step up and say, here, let's go for it. And of course that laboratory isn't in this building, but that work's been done, and I think it's put to good use like it is now. You know, I always felt like Caltech was an important factor in my engineering and business success, and so this was a good idea for us, something where we could give back to Caltech and at the same time give to the future students here in engineering and science. And you know, it's such an important segment of our society that it's just really got to be an important thing to do. Just over a year ago at the kickoff event, I said, we are excited to see the green flag fly today. And we're looking forward to the checkered flag. Well, I think when you walked in here today, there's checkered flags everywhere. So we're back. And now we got the checkered flag. We had an opportunity to tour the project for the first time earlier today. And it's spectacular. It'll be a valuable addition to the engineering department, and Sandy and I are very proud to be a part of it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. We are delighted that Diane Wallach can join us today. Diane is the president of Cody Resources, a real assets holding company, an alumnus of Stanford University. She worked in Citibank and the Gates Corporation prior to her current role. Diane is also a trustee of the Gates Family Foundation and the Gates Frontiers Fund. She is very involved in the community with service on the boards of the Denver Institute for the Advancement of the American Legal System, the Charles C. Gates Center for Regenerative Medicine and Stem Cell Biology, Children's Hospital Colorado, the Denver Art Museum Foundation, and many others. Diane and her brother, John Gates, made the gift in honor of their father, Charles C. Gates, Jr. Thank you, Diane, and please come up and share your thoughts.
I think you all need a wave pool to go with those beach towels down there. We could certainly use one up here. Good afternoon. Thanks, Kaushik. I must add my appreciation and my brother's to yours. It's a pleasure for us to be here today. So Charlie Gates, he would be a very happy fellow today. I'm going to share a few thoughts about Charlie because many of you never knew him. But he believed in tackling problems. He loved finding solutions, no matter where they could be found. He was an ideas man, quick to make important connections, and often turn concepts into realities. He believed in taking risks. One of his favorite phrases was, "Toss your hat across the creek." Well, Jim and Sandy, you did that when you started this project. He would have called that tossing your hat, because then you had to go get it and get it over the finish line. He was an inventor. He invested in businesses, in the community, in people and their dreams. And he was a team player and a team builder. And he always said, no one ever does their best work alone. This project's a great example of those last two things. First of all, you talked about donors earlier. Donors are really investors. We're here today giving to this project because it's got a future. It's venture philanthropy. It's really believing in seeing something come out of the other end. Also, donors are partners. Students, faculty, you're all doing the fun stuff, the great science and the sizzle, but we're here to help lay a foundation to get those kind of things done. We're kind of the financial fuel, maybe, cheering this along. Putting this a little bit differently, it's a way for those of us without PhDs, postdocs, post-postdocs, or post-postdocs, to actually pitch in a little bit. Charlie would be the first to applaud working together in hopes of reducing our dependence on shrinking public funding, innovating in the classroom, finding ways to leverage great learning and brain power, engaging industry and local communities in our efforts, and streamlining how we move ideas from labs into the marketplace. Certainly this facility behind us came together in this spirit, and I think that's what he would have been so excited about today to celebrate. Quite simply, we also wouldn't be here without the vision and hard work of Kaushik, Aris, Brian, the Halls, the Wangs, and so many others. Closing, Charlie was a great fan of simply the sheer joy of accomplishment, shared accomplishment. And yes, he'd be a pretty happy fellow today. We certainly are. So thank you.
In his inauguration address last October, Caltech's president Thomas Rosenbaum described excellence, ambition, focus, intimacy, and perspective as the elements needed for the intellectual magic we have here at Caltech. I hope that we have succeeded in incorporating these elements into the Gates Thomas Laboratory. Now it gives me great pleasure to ask Caltech's ninth president, Dr. Thomas Rosenbaum, to join me at the podium for some remarks.
It is a tremendous pleasure and honor to wave the checkered flag and to celebrate our shared accomplishment. Caltech is a destination for people who want to fulfill their dreams of discovery in science and engineering. It is, as Aris pointed out again, our shared culture, our belief in excellence, our belief in focus, our belief in ambition, intimacy, intensity of work, that gives us the leg up where people can see, whether they're students, faculty, or staff, trustees, friends of the Institute, can see that this is the place where those dreams can be realized. But when we attract people here, when we tell them about this culture, when they hear and know about this culture, it goes a long way, but it is not enough. We also need the tools that allow them to succeed, that allow them to make those discoveries that are going to transform the world. And it is buildings like Gates Thomas, the environment that's been created this way, that gives them the confidence, that gives them the ability to be able to make those discoveries. This is a fundamental statement about the values of Caltech and the ability we have to realize our future. It also points to the transcending aspect of philanthropy. It is not just, as Diane, you said, it is not just the fact that the money comes in the door, which provides the fuel to make the enterprise work. It is far more, as you said. It is in fact a realization that you can move from one place to another through this investment. It is a statement about what's important for all of us as a society. And we get to see in physical form with this beautiful building, with these connections to all parts of campus, how powerful it can be. There are modern laboratories. There are places where people can meet in open spaces to share ideas, the secret of success here at Caltech. There is the combination of nodding to the past, slate blackboards, which are essential, iron railings original to the building, but also computer suites and blackboards where people will gather and talk. It is this combination which gives the strength to this building and also its beauty. We've heard a lot about mechanical engineering and why it's so important from the experts. I actually checked with Wikipedia to see what the general perception of mechanical engineering is. And I will skip going back to the time of Archimedes, which is covered in great distinction, but the quote I liked was, quote, "Mechanical engineering overlaps with aerospace engineering, metallurgical engineering, civil engineering, electrical engineering, manufacturing engineering, chemical engineering, and other engineering disciplines. Mechanical engineers may also work in the field of biomedical engineering." So I understood very well two things. One is the Caltech ethos. We are a place where disciplinary boundaries are irrelevant. I also understand why this building is in the middle of campus. So it is with great excitement, with this opening up across the campus from the center of campus, that we see a new age of discovery beginning, thanks to the philanthropy and thanks to the vision of so many. So it is, I think, time now to mark this officially, to thank everyone, but to cut the ribbon, at which point people can actually officially go into the building. Aris, please hold on to your hammer. We will switch to scissors. So if I may invite up Lisan and Anne, Jim and Sandy, Diane, Aris, and Kaushik.
Right here? Yeah. Scissors hands are ready.
All right, very good.
Put it across the ribbon.
Okay.
And don't cut
Don't,
it
don't
yet.
cut yet.
And on three, everybody right here. And 1, 2, 3.
And now what you
Two people doing it.